Need to call a public hearing to order, and it's on the ordinance to amend municipal section of the town sewer use ordinance as required by DHEC. If there's anybody here to speak to the amendment, please step forward and state your name. Assuming there's no one to speak, we'll close that public hearing and we'll move into the second one that is on the ordinance to rezone the property located at 260 Holman Street from C1 General Commercial to C2 Transitional Commercial. And again, if you have anything to say, would you please step forward?
Jesse Reeves. My wife's name is Barbara. This is property that was left to her by her aunt, had on the street. She lived there all her life, been there, I don't know, 89 years. And she got put in a nursing home, but assisted living facility out of the hospital. I thought she was going to be coming back home. She never did. The power was cut off and the water was cut off. So she would have to pay when they looked at insurance and all that kind of stuff. We'd just like to have it rezoned as commercial residential so that we can try to move it. Okay? And that's all. Appreciate it. Thank you for giving us.
You mean by move it, meaning sell it?
Yes. Yes. I've had a lot of people show interest in it, but they didn't want to continue to be in a commercial situation. But, you know, whatever y'all can do to help us get it done, I talked with the town attorney about it. And hopefully you can help us do something with it. Please. Thank you.
Mr. Reeves?
Yeah.
Just a quick question and clarifying for other people that might know. This is the White House on the corner of Carolina and Holman. It's back behind Bynum.
That's
It's
correct.
right in front of the old
See me,
stamp
please.
plant.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're right. It sure is. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then we'll close this public hearing. And we'll go right into the council meeting. And Reverend Shipkins, if you do the honor for me, please, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Let us pray. Dear God, we come now, Father, thanking you for this privilege and opportunity to serve our fellow man. We thank you, O God, for the task that you have placed at our feet, O God, that we might be the best servants that we can possibly be. We pray now for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Lord, as to what it is that you would have us to do, the decisions you would have us to make. Lord, help us make the best decisions that will benefit our community. We pray for our presidential candidates and all of the individuals running for election this year, Lord God, and for all of those who are currently serving, Lord. And we just ask that you continue to walk with us and hold us in the palms of your hand when no man can pluck us out, but give us the courage to be all that you have created us to be. We ask that you come into our midst this evening, God. Lead and guide us, guide our hearts, tongues, and our mind, that we might be on one accord and do the best job that this council can possibly do. These blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You've received the agenda for tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Motion from Rachel. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second from Bob. Discussion? District 1?
District 1 votes yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
District 3 votes yes.
District 4?
District 4 votes yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
And 8 is absent. I vote yes. You received the minutes of the July 11th regular council meeting. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion to adopt?
Got a motion from Chip. Going to be the second?
Second.
Second from Todd. Discussion? District 1?
District 1 votes yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
District 3 votes no.
District 4?
District 4 votes yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. Next council meeting will be right here on September 12th. And Central Midlands.
No report, COG takes the month of July off.
Oh. EPAC.
They haven't met in a year, I don't think.
Okay. How about joint water?
We had a meeting last month. 3 minor things happened. One, I was reelected as the vice chairman for the Joint Water Sewer Commission.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Condolences, whichever. We transferred about $100 and something thousand to cover something in our capital improvement plan. Thank goodness we had it there.
Yeah.
And the other, we gave our our executive officer legal authority to deal with West Columbia after we violated water
Gotcha.
laws.
All right. To mediate all that.
Exactly, and I think things have gotten better.
Good. Reverend Tim, Fitch County Economic Development.
EDC met on August 8th, this past Thursday. Report from the Chamber, President Mike Taylor reported that the Chamber's annual auction would take place on August 20th at TNS Farm. He encouraged all to come out and take part. Ministry Alliance is sponsoring a back-to-school prayer and praise service to honor and pray for our students, teachers, and school staff at Haynes Auditorium on August the 14th at 3:00 p.m. And we are asking and encouraging all to attend, that we might all get on one accord and place that spiritual hedge of protection around our school district. Dr. Gary gave a report from the schools. He said that they have from 75 to 80 kindergarten students who are enrolled in the new Montessori program, ages 4 and 5 currently. And also,
Sorry, I'm not sure what
they were scheduled to pick up their schedules on this past Thursday. Children return on August 15. Teachers return today. And the district has received this year $1.2 million in grants, and which include a grant for the after-school program at the middle school. The town's report, I believe council has a copy of it, and the manager will update us on that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anybody signed up? Anybody signed up to comment on the agenda? And unfinished business, we have a second reading on an ordinance to amend municipal sections of the town sewer use ordinance as required by DHEC, I guess, not SHEHEC. DHEC.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to follow the agenda, and you skipped over public comments regarding items on the agenda. We have a public request, and we were trying to see when we could get that in and address the council in regards to that.
If it's not on the agenda, it can't be spoken to, and people sign up in advance of the meeting to speak to items that are on the agenda.
They need to sign up in advance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can we, how do we do that for the September 12th meeting? Can we do that?
Well, we'll have to make sure whatever you want to address is on the agenda for the September 12th meeting. So.
Okay, so do we submit it in writing or in website? Submit it to me. Submit it to you. Okay.
What is it that you want to talk about?
Well, we have some concerns about the water rate increase, the base increase.
All right, well, that's not on the agenda, so we can't address that tonight.
I understand.
But
That's
I
fine.
think the manager has
September
talked to you
12th.
about that, so.
Yeah, we have some findings we'd like to present. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
great.
Present it to you?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
All right, we've got the second reading on the ordinance to amend the multiple sections of the town sewer use ordinance as required by DHEC. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion from Chip, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rachel. Discussion. District 1,
District 1 votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
And I vote yes. Approval of the contractual agreement between Lexington School District 3 and the town of Batesburg-Leesville relating to the school resource officer. This had been tabled at the last meeting.
I move that we remove from the table the contract agreement between Lexington 3 and the town of Batesburg-Leesville School Resource Officer Program.
Second motion.
And adopt the amended version that was in our packets this week.
Actually takes two motions, does it
Right.
not? One to remove it from the table. so-
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so you're seconding the, taking it off the table?
Off the
All right. So we're just going to add a second line there. District 1,
District on vote yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Now, on your motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amended version of the contract that was in our packets this week.
Okay. Motion by Chip, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bob. Discussion.
What changes have been made?
The language talking about discipline, it basically removed, as I understand it, Charles, all the language that attached a disciplinary function with the officer.
I think there was one item way down in the contract that said the SRO would discipline. And in the last meeting, Chip brought that to light. That we-
Right.
So that's what was removed.
That's what my conflict was with.
We were concerned about the officer getting involved in
Discipline situation.
discipline
Right.
situation.
Yep.
So that has been removed.
That's correct.
Yeah, I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ted, what is the town's liability for assuming this responsibility?
As far as,
As far as something goes wrong, we get sued, officer misbehaves, we get sued. Why are we taking on this responsibility? When the county had it, why are we doing it now?
well, the county had the high school.
Right.
It's been a number of years now that we've had the middle school. You know, as far as liability in law enforcement, the liability is no different for the SRO as it is for an officer out there on the road.
I guess my question would be then, what's the exposure to the officer for taking on that additional responsibility?
The exposure would be no different than if the school called for a road officer to walk in there and take care of the situation. All we're doing is the school's paying for basically half of the officer to stay at the school while school is in session.
No, I'm trying to understand why is that necessary? Because, I mean, any officer should be less than a minute away from that middle school at any given time, maybe 2 minutes on a code response to the school. So I'm just trying to understand why we putting the officers directly in the school for that long period of time and not on the streets.
Steve, I'd like to think of it as not putting those kids at risk for the time it would take for an officer to get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, at risk for what? I'm saying, I'm not.
Have you watched the news in the last?
Well, I mean,
4 or
that's the
5
news,
years?
that's the national news. I'm talking about what is the history here in Batesburg that would require something like that? I understand that
This
there's
is a request of the school district, was it?
I understand they can request what they want, but what I'm trying to get at is it necessary for us to put this type of resource in the school system when they don't have a documented problem with middle school kids that I'm aware of?
All right, I'm gonna speak for my second time. This is like saying we shouldn't have fire drills in schools because we don't have fires in schools and nobody's been killed.
No, I don't think that's a good.
It's the same thing.
Not really, but I understand.
Very good analogy.
Okay. So,
Questions, please.
yeah. Well, even if you call for the question, you still have to finish the debate. I mean, call for the question doesn't mean that first of all, you have to vote on a call for the question.
No,
not
you
on suspend.
don't. No, you don't.
I think you do have to.
No, sir, you don't. It means discussion, yeah. So District 1?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll rely on our attorney for that. I think you have to vote if somebody calls for the question.
Well, let me get back to the first question you asked.
That would be helpful.
This is not a new contract. This is renewing a contract
Right.
that the town's already been in.
I'm not debating that. I'm just trying to get some clarity on why we're doing it.
And I'm going to try to answer you because I don't
Okay.
have a dog in the fight one way or the other.
Right.
But the benefit that I see as your town attorney is the school's paying for half an officer. If that's what the contract says, they're paying for half of the salary and half of the equipment and half of everything that put somebody at the school to protect the kids while they're at school.
Okay, and they're taking out the liability also, correct?
As I said before, there is no more liability from that officer being at the school than there would be for an officer responding to the school to handle a situation.
Okay.
It's the same liability. Our insurance still covers the same issues. It doesn't add any, it doesn't take any away, but there's a benefit of a officer being there while school's in session and the school paying for half that officer.
District 1,
District 1 votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes no.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
and I vote yes. New business. Presentation of Phase 2 of proposed water treatment plant funding by USDA Rural Development.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. What we have for you tonight is the letter of conditions for Phase 2 water project. Last September, I believe it was, we issued the letter of conditions and approval for Phase 1. Phase 2 will be the actual construction of the plant. It'll be is that better?
Yes.
Phase 2 will be construction of the actual plant, a water tank, relocation of a booster pump, and conversion of the raw water lines to distribution lines, and construction of some additional distribution lines. I think everybody has a copy of the letter. I'll go over some of the high points of this letter. I won't read it to you in detail. Again, it's very, very similar to the letter that was issued back in September on Phase 1. This letter here for Phase 2 contains the specifics as far as construction amounts and loan amounts and repayment amounts on the loan specifically for Phase 2. If you have any questions as we work through this, stop and we can discuss those. Page 1. It lists two loan amounts, but that's because of limitations in our system, and actually be one combined total project cost, which we'll get to over on page 3, I believe it is. So we'll flip over there. If you'll go to page 3, top of the page, section 1, project description. We've just talked about that. Section 2 there lists the two loans for a total project cost of $13,148,100. The bottom of page 3 lists the breakdown of the project cost. And you can see those there on the bottom of page 3 and over on the top of page 4. Total project cost matches the proposed funding, $13,148,100. In the middle of page 4, section 4, repayment. Second paragraph there, the loan to be scheduled for repayment over a period of 40 years. Payments will be equal monthly installments. The interest rate, proposed interest rate, which will be a not to exceed rate, and will not go over that amount, will be 1 5/8, 1.625. If the rate changes and drops between now and the time that we close the loan, you can elect to take that lower rate. But your guaranteed rate, once we obligate to commit the funds to y'all, the rate would not exceed 1.625.
Question. Why did you say we have two loan amounts again?
It's because of a limitation in our system. We cannot obligate anything over $9,999,999, so we just broke it out in an $8 million and a $5.1 million. The combined total is the same. It's just because of a limitation in our system, we can't obligate anything over 7 figures. It's just our computer limitations.
But will there be one loan or actually two?
Actually, 2 loans. 2 loans, that's correct.
That's the way it was with phase 1.
Same as phase 1, yeah.
Okay, so can I ask a question? What is the total payback?
All right, that's right here in the second paragraph, about the middle of page 4, under section 4. We got an $8 million loan. Payment on that will be $22,720 per month. Payment on the smaller loan, the $5,148,100, will be $14,621. So those are your 2 debt service amounts on the 2 loans.
Okay, now, so what's the total payback? Not the monthly payment. We're borrowing $13 million on phase 1. I assume we're borrowing about $13 million on phase 1, and phase 2, about $13 million, $24 million roughly upfront cost. Right, so what's the total payback?
Combine phase 1 and phase 2?
Yeah, and plus the interest over 40 years.
I don't have those with me. I
Depends
can
on
figure
interest
that
rate.
to you. But yeah, if you're talking about combined principal plus interest, yeah, I don't have that figure.
Okay, can we get that too? Can we get that figure? Okay.
Okay, section 5, the security. It's going to be a revenue bond issue. Bottom of page 4, electronic payment, just like on phase 1. You got a form that you can complete, pre-authorized debit, which will electronically debit the account, the payment from your account. So over to page 5, construction requirements will be basically the same. Bottom of page 5, number 9, the reserve requirement, debt service reserve. This will be a little different than what was on phase 1 because this is based on the debt service for the loan. So you're required to put in 10% of the annual payment amount into an account until that balance in that account equals 1 year's debt service, 1 year's payment on the loans. So for the bigger loan, the $8 million loan, the monthly requirement on that deposit will be $2,272. Payment on the smaller loan will be $1,462.10. In addition to the debt service reserve, you also required, over on page 6, top of page 6, you're also required to maintain a depreciation account, or what we call a short-lived asset reserve, which will allow you to replace parts of your system as they wear out and need replacement. So if you need to paint a tank, if you need to rebuild a pump, replace a line, that's what that account is for. And based on the chart that was presented to us in the preliminary engineering report, you'll need to fund that account in accordance with that schedule that was presented to us in the PER. So those are your 2 reserve accounts, your debt service reserve and your short-lived asset reserve. Part of the process we go through when we fund an application is we do an environmental review, determine if there's going to be any impact, any important environmental resource. As a result of this project, once it's completed, we have determined there would not be a negative impact on any important environmental resource. There are some mitigation measures there on the bottom of page 6, and we'll include those in the construction contract. And in the event that any new information pops up, for example, about endangered species or historic or archaeological resources, basically the contractor will stop construction, notify y'all, notify us, and the appropriate historic authorities or whoever has jurisdiction over whatever problem is, that if they uncover anything.
Should something like that happen, would that be considered in the construction completion timeframe, justifying an extension for the time?
It would be, that would certainly justify an extension, yes. Okay, over on page 7 and the following pages, as I mentioned, the rest of the conditions are basically the same as in phase 1. We will need information from the attorney as far as valid rights-of-way being available. We'll need legal services agreement for attorney services. We'll need that information before we can request our closing instructions from our general counsel. So that'll be one of the first things we need to do on phase 2 in order to proceed. Everything else is, again, pretty much the same from phase 1. So what we're doing on phase 1, we also need to complete the same task on phase 2. Other than your debt service amounts, your loan amounts, your short-lived asset reserve requirement, and your debt service reserve requirement, those are specific to phase 2.
What is the grant amount?
There is no grant amount. This will be all loan. Our grant funds are very limited, and basically they're gone. But based on what was presented, we determined that there would be adequate repayment ability for the loan on phase 2.
You have that documentation too? The proposed repayment schedule, how we proposing to project it?
That's up to y'all.
You don't have that?
That's up to the town to come up with a plan to repay.
Ted, you have that? That we can take a look at. Can you email that to me?
I have a question about the.
I'm gonna see if Ted's gonna email that to me.
Based on the funding and everything that we've been given, that's something that we're gonna have to sit down and discuss is the financial side and coming up with the plan for repayment.
Hold on, Ted. Now, we've applied for a loan, we put all this money out here in engineering and all this cost. We've been down this road before, and we don't know how we're gonna pay for it.
Right here in this moment, I don't have documentation for an exact payment that we're gonna make and all of that, so.
Should grant funds become available later during this time, do we have the ability to apply?
Not for what you've already presented to us. This is our proposal for phase 2. If there's additional phases or additional work that needs to be done at that time, you could apply. If grant funds are available, yes, they would be for
But
consideration.
at this time, that is a definite zero.
Right.
What is the advantage to the town in obtaining the funds from rural development if there are no grant funds involved?
Two main advantages. Number one, the interest rate, 1.625, is unheard of. I've been in the program for about 15 years, and that's the lowest I've ever seen the interest rate on our program. Number two, the term, we can go up to 40 years, which we have proposed in this particular situation. There's no prepayment penalty on that. You can make extra payments, you can pay the loan off at any time. But with the rate and the term combined that we've got proposed, I don't think you'll find a match for that anywhere as far as any kind of water or sewer infrastructure project.
So you're saying no other financial institution would consider giving us a 40-year loan to build this plant?
I don't think you'll find that, no, sir.
Conventional will go 20 years. Conventional will go 20 years on something like this, but not 40. Is that right?
Typically, that's right.
I know SRF is, they will go up to 30 on special circumstances, but drinking water's primarily been 20 through the state SRF.
It's not at an interest rate that's...
No, they're upper twos.
Let me ask you another question, a general question. Now, is rural development also funding Saluda County's water plant?
I am not the specialist in that area, but I think they are funding at least one for them, yes.
Okay, so now rural development is we're going to have two plants, water plants, 2 miles apart from one another. And I suspect that our projections are we're probably going to be using the same customer base, or close, when you come out to Saluda County, as part of the projected repayment plan. Are you pretty much aware of that?
No, I am not.
Okay.
Each system has their own users and will serve their own users.
Well, I just want to make sure that is the case, because in the past, we have said that we would be selling water from that line, from our line, in Saluda County. And I understand from Saluda County that they're also going to be selling water from their line in Saluda County. So we both can't sell water in Saluda County. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm just saying for information, for rural development information. And do you see that that can be an issue where you have two towns that are pretty much contiguous with one another, and you're going to fund two water plants that are $20 million, $24 million each? From an agency point of view, does that make good sense?
Again, I have not been involved in that Saluda County project. Part of the process of reviewing a project, we get an application, we review the financial feasibility of that project, we review the feasibility from an engineering standpoint, as reviewed by our state engineer. This one has also been reviewed by our national engineer out of our national office in Washington. It's been reviewed by a national office, the program division, the water and sewer division. So at this point, we have no reason to believe that this project would not be a feasible project.
I'm not saying it's feasible. I'm just saying that you got two.
Again, I can't.
Two
comment
projects.
on that
The agency is funding two projects, 2 miles apart. They're serving drinking water to communities that are contiguous. And I'm just thinking, from a national point of view, of how we spend our national tax money as well as how we spend our local tax money. It might be something that rural development maybe need to look into. And not to mention the fact that Newberry, which is maybe 8-9 miles down the road, has enough water capacity for both to serve all 3 entities. You know, so as a cost-cutting factor, instead of trying to put 2 different communities into that type of debt, which I'm not even sure, and the manager's not even sure, that we could even service that debt without putting a huge burden on our citizens. It might be something that the agency might want to look into.
I'm not sure he said that, Steve. That's just not
We
accurate.
got to look at options. Stuart, do you have the resolution?
He said what?
I do have a resolution.
Okay, I don't have it up here, so that we have to adopt this by resolution.
Yep, if council decides to proceed, one of the forms I have with me tonight for you to sign, and there was a list of them in your letter here. One of them is the loan resolution, where council agrees to accept the letter of conditions as proposed, and that will allow us to go ahead and commit the funds to the project. And then the town can proceed with providing information in the letter of conditions, legal services information, plan, specifications, moving through the bid process. You can provide that information to us. But one of the things we need to do first is for council to vote to proceed and accept the letter of conditions.
You want us to vote on that and then the resolution?
Yes, ma'am.
Separate motions. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the letter of conditions as presented?
I so move.
Motion from Bob. Is
I'll
there a
second.
Is that you, Chip? Second from Chip. Any more discussion?
Madam Mayor, I would just caution council again that we've done this one time before. We've seen this show before, where we have accepted a letter of conditions from rural development. We've gone through all the money, and almost $2 million, if from my recollection, or more, we've spent on a failed water project before, and for the same reason it failed. Ted's sitting here saying, we don't know how we're going to service this debt. That's something that you need to know before you buy a car. How I'm going to pay for the car.
He didn't say that he didn't know.
But he didn't have it. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it in
We
front
haven't
of him.
discussed any options, and that's got to come before council.
Okay,
So
I'm saying,
does council
I understand
vote
that.
to, how does council
Can I
feel?
finish my discussion?
Well, you're kind of all over this and
No, I'm
accepting.
not. I'm making a
accepting
point.
What's been presented.
Can I make my point?
Quickly.
Okay, so all I'm saying to council is that let's not make the same mistake that we made prior to, when we didn't have that basic information of how we're gonna pay for it before we decided we were gonna do it. That's all. Y'all can vote, but that's all I'm saying. We need to know how we're gonna pay for it, and you need to know how we're gonna pay for it before you come here with documents and a letter of consent, but you don't even know how we're gonna pay for it. You have no idea. And you're asking us for a resolution and you have no idea.
All right, Mr. King, that's enough.
Okay,
District
thank you,
one.
Madam Mayor.
District 1 votes yes.
District two.
Yes.
District three.
District 3 votes no.
District four.
What are we voting on?
Accepting the letter of conditions.
Now, it seems to me that we need some discussion.
This is just like you presented for phase one.
All right, and we discussed phase one, letter of conditions before we voted on it.
When he presented it, we voted on it. So how do you vote, sir?
Now, this is the first time we've seen this letter.
No more discussion. How do you vote, sir? We're in the middle of the question.
But I need to understand, how can council vote on this when it has just been put in front of us?
Do you vote for it or against?
I vote no.
District five.
Yes.
District six.
Yes.
District seven.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Now we need the resolution. I've got no resolution. Is it in here, Stuart?
I believe it's a blank.
Water and sewer system grant agreement? Just name the top. So, vote on two resolutions. All right, so I don't need to vote on these then, since we voted to, since we've accepted, just make sure, because I don't recall last time voting on a separate resolution. You just presented and then we accepted letter of conditions. Okay. All right. All right. I thought we had to vote on the resolution too. First reading on the ordinance to rezone property located at 260 Holman Street from C1 General Commercial to C2 Transitional Commercial. Council's pleasure.
I'll move, we adjust that zoning.
I second.
Motion from Bob, second from Rachel. Discussion.
All I'll say is our zoning commission recommended this transition.
District 1,
District 1 votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
and yes. Approval of funds to purchase, we don't have to do approval of funds, to purchase and install a radio transmitted SCADA system for water distribution system. Tim?
In your packets this time was a white paper for requesting funds to improve or upgrade our SCADA system, our distribution system, our elevated tanks, house service pump. And I requested the amount of $75,500, and this is to accompany the Wellington Tank remediation project that we have received CDBG grant funds for. Currently, if we take the Wellington Tank out of service, we will not have any of the control capability in our distribution system. So, with that being said, the white paper just kind of presents some requests based on some solicitations, prices that I got, put in front of you. We're under kind of time constraint with the remediation of Wellington tank because it needs to be done during the cold weather period. Because that is essentially our major tank, sits in the middle of our distribution system. And we discovered this problem with a little mock demonstration of how the system would operate without the tank in place. And we realized then we got no remote control, high service control of our pumps at the water treatment plant, based on tank levels. So I presented this white paper in an effort to try to upgrade this facility so we could take the Wellington tank out of service, get that remediation work done, and get back in service before the winter's over this spring.
As I understand, this is going to be an emergency procurement.
It's a high importance.
Because of time constraints.
We can't proceed with that project without having some control.
Right, so essentially, the Wellington tank goes offline and we don't have remote capability and we're not able to monitor what the Ridgell Street tank and the Granite Street water tank are doing, then, as he stated, that's the primary water tank on the system. As it goes down, they're gonna have to be able to evaluate what the Ridgell Street and Granite Street water tank water levels are doing, because the whole way the distribution system is working with Wellington down is gonna be different from what's common. And so, based on the time constraints of the CDBG funding and when those funds are available and running out, and as well as when the tank needs to be down, if we were to go the traditional route, you're extending that period 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
So the question, Tim, is why do the other tanks not have the same capability?
I do not know. Granite Street, to my knowledge, never has had any level control on it.
Okay.
We do have level indication at Ridgell. We've had some phone line issues with it currently. We don't have that level, but it does have that capability, but there is no control from Ridgell Street tank for any of the high service pump system.
Again, my question is why has that never been? He's our engineer. He's been our engineer for about 15 years. That's why I feel comfortable asking him that question. But okay.
How about the time frame for this work, the improvement?
Talking to the low bid integrator here, Cubax, he says it'll take about 6 to 8 weeks for him from the time he gets notice to proceed to have this work in place. That would put us on that probably early, the 1st of November possibly. And if we look at the bid process for the Granite Street tank, that's another 30 days to 60 days to get it from the council and get approved. So we possibly couldn't start construction until maybe early January, and we would not make. It's probably going to be 4 months, 4 or 5 months that tank's going to be offline. But remediation work be done because it's interior and exterior.
Right. Tim, I think I caught part of an issue that you said telephone lines for the Ridgell Street tank, and the other tanks are on telephone lines as well?
Wellington and Ridgell Street both have telephone.
All right, now, what you're looking for, my understanding, is a radio link.
That's correct.
Which means that we will not be paying for 3 commercial telephone lines every month?
Will be interior costs.
Okay. And in the paperwork that we got earlier, I think it was paperwork, I'm not sure, conversations, paperwork, whatever, most of the money that you're asking for this project has already been allocated. You're only asking for $17,000 roughly?
Well, that's actually coming out of the budget line item.
That's what I'm saying. You're asking for that transfer, but the other funds for this project are already in place, we can use them.
Yeah, yes, I get it. So we are asking, the funds we're asking for, I guess, would be what's associated with Wellington tank work.
Okay.
Because we had proposed some monies in there for scale improvements, but because we need to have this in place before we take Wellington offline, and that work that we did with that job, we had to pull it out, and I'm assuming we're sort of asking for that. That's what we're asking for.
So, yes, there was built-in cash allowance money that we had built into the Granite Street water tank remediation that we just had not, that's the $23,500 that we had not moved forward with that tank yet. And then in the current Wellington CDBG project, we're putting in there for a $25,000 cash allowance, or $23,500 for Wellington, we had 25 in Granite. And so then we allocated 17,000 from our impact fee account that we have, which currently has close to 35,000 in it. And as a part of the capital improvement plan for the impact fees, it does call for SCADA systems. And then we had 10,000 allocated from water facilities line item in the regular budget.
Okay. Well, I guess that my question is, what are you asking us to make a proposition to transfer $17,000 from the impact fees? Is that what you're asking for?
Ultimately, what we would be asking for at this time is to approve funding up to $75,500 to move forward with this project. Understanding that $23,525, so $48,500 of that is allocated towards the projects for Wellington and Granite Street. But I think an overall approval of funds up to $75,500 based on the breakdown that was presented in your white paper would cover it.
Okay, Tim, while they huddling up, let me ask you a question. Are you fixing, does this money fix the problem with the other water towers?
Yes.
It does fix that?
We will have monitoring on all three tanks. We will have some logic in place that we can actually pivot either of the three tanks to control up to 4 high surface pumps.
Okay.
27,000.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what needs to be in the motion, is 27.
I'd like to make the motion that we do this up to $27,000. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second, Chip, any more discussion?
I have one more question for Tim. What is our average daily water usage right now? I mean,
We'll probably average about 1.45 to 1.5.
and our capacity is what?
Currently, we operate at full capacity of about 1.9 million a day.
District 1,
District 1 votes yes.
District 2,
Yes.
How much are we moving?
We operate at about 1.9 million.
No, how much money we moving?
27,000.
Okay.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Managers report.
Thank you.
Okay, as many probably saw in the newspaper, we have converted to our new utility billing payment portal online, as well as a telephone-based system, which we previously did not have. That is now operational. The big improvement for staff and where we'll see a big benefit from an internal standpoint is that when people make payments online or over the phone now, it will credit their account right away. Previously, that would all have to be done manually. So the next thing was Windmill Road resurfacing. If you haven't been by Windmill Road, between Highway 1 and Broad Street was resurfaced as a part of the overall industrial park infrastructure improvements. The county did this with seed funds that they have established for economic development. So our wastewater treatment plant received a certificate of excellence for laboratory proficiency testing. I think you'll remember a couple months ago, our water treatment plant received the same certificate of excellence. This is for laboratory evaluation on demand, hardness, pH, total residual chlorine, coliforms, and microbe E. And just want to say thank you to the wastewater treatment plant staff for all their hard work in that. The South Carolina Department of Public Safety has awarded us a grant for $13,463.26 to the police department to purchase body-worn cameras and some additional servers. so that we can store the data from those body-worn cameras. While our PD has had body-worn cameras for quite some time, these new cameras will replace the older cameras that we may have in service, and I can tell you, you can't have enough servers when you have all those videos uploading, so the additional server will be a great add. That's all I have.
Could I ask, two things, Madam Mayor? One, the cameras that we're decommissioning, are we going to give them to other departments, like maybe Rich Spring or some other department who might not be able to afford cameras? Sorry.
I have the major. I'm not sure about the answer to that, so I'll defer to the major. What do we do with old body cameras when we decommission them?
Hang on to them just in case some new cameras go out and we have to send it back to the company.
Emergency backup.
Yeah, I also wanted to comment on the fact that I noticed over the last 6 months or maybe longer that that you have highlighted the water and sewer department, and I also want to lend my congratulations to. I know Angie does a great job down the way, but it's really funny though because I was tarred and feathered up here for saying that our water and wastewater plants were good and that we could produce good water and also treat that we've been treating our water successfully. So I'm glad the council has come around to the idea that we do have good facilities and that our facilities could be made excellent again because they once were. And I say that because I was cleaning out the shed and I saw a PER that Tim had done that said that our water, both our water and wastewater treatment plants weren't any good. So now I'm glad to know that they are good again. Thank you.
There's no executive session. Follow-up potential agenda items for the September meeting. Council have anything?
Agenda, the item that the gentleman has raised about the water rates, that we need to give them opportunity to speak to that. So Ted, if you could work with the folks that you need to work with to get that, that's a part of the agenda for the next meeting.
Is that part of that?
Under the rules, that would be a motion, somebody have a second, the council will have to vote.
A second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Steve and a second by Rachel. Don't know exactly what the motion would be, but
Well, it's been moved and seconded, so it don't matter.
well, yeah.
Well, I'm not.
To put the gentleman, to put the
Yeah,
gentleman.
the motion-
Could he come up to the podium?
No.
Okay, the motion is to address the water rate hike. Right. You're not
You
really,
accept that as your second, your motion.
I do.
Okay.
I move that we table the motion because I don't know what the motion is until we get the information from the gentleman and it's given to council so that it can be.
well, we just have to have that. I would like to know some details about the water rate and how the water rate, the increased funds will be allocated and utilized by the town. So that would be what I would like to have staff present. And then if that gentleman wants to come back and address that as an issue, then that would be appropriate.
I certainly want the gentleman to understand I'm not opposing you speaking on whatever it is that you want. I don't know what we're voting on in just a moment. And
Okay, we're voting.
so when I vote no, I want you to understand why.
Okay, well, we're voting to have staff explain their plans because they've asked for water increase.
That isn't what you made the
That's
motion on just
not
now.
what I
No, that
seconded.
came up in the work session, so. The motion was to allow someone to address council on water
No,
rates.
well, I
That was the
withdraw.
original motion.
Okay, now you said you didn't need a motion, but now.
That's what you said.
Okay.
Hold up,
So now
hold
you
up,
need to-
as a point of order, the motion that was made was for somebody to be allowed to speak on water rates. That's what's been seconded. That's what the motion is. So
That is
unless
what-
that gets voted down, if there's no more discussion, we need to take a vote on that motion before we get all messed up procedurally.
Okay, so I withdraw that that motion so I can make a better motion.
Rachel, do you withdraw the second?
Unless we're not gonna vote on, I would like to keep the motion on the floor and keep my second for the original motion.
Well, if Mr. Kane withdraws his, then that's a motion, the same thing, as somebody second that motion.
I'll say.
All right.
Okay, just for the record, will someone clarify what the motion is, please?
The motion is that somebody be allowed to address council on water rates.
Thank you.
That's the motion.
Thank you.
And there's been second.
Is this something that needs to be brought before council, or can this be discussed with the town manager?
Don't know.
We've had 2 readings on the water rates plus a public hearing.
Mr. Stimpson, where we're at in the meeting is to add something to the agenda for next month. This is y'all's time to add something to the agenda for next month. It's not in the manager's control. Y'all can add what you want to by motion now. And so what we've got is a motion to add someone speaking on water rates at the next meeting.
Council, and that's why I said the better motion would be to address the broader issue.
We can't, we
But you
already
can't-
got a motion on the table.
So I can't say what's better or what's not.
Okay, I'm
I'll
just
have to
saying.
deal with what's been done.
Well, I understand, but go ahead, we can go through this, I'll make another motion.
District 1,
District one votes yes.
District 2,
Sure, yes.
District 3,
District 3 votes yes.
District 4,
District 4 votes yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7.
Yes.
And I guess we're going, yes, we'll let somebody come speak on water rates. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.